That belief, without a single concrete proof, was certainly a sign of mental imbalance. And Thorvald was regarding him now with frowning impatience. You were supposed to humor delusions, weren't you? Only, could you surrender and humor a wild idea which might mean your death? If Thorvald wanted to go island hopping, in chance of discovering what never had existed, Shan need not accompany him. And if the officer tried to use force, well, Shan was armed with a stunner and had, he believed, more control over the Wolverines. Perhaps if he merely gave lip agreement to this project. Only he didn't believe, noting the light deep in those gray eyes holding on him, that anybody could talk Thorvald out of this particular obsession. You don't believe me, do you? The impatient arose hotly in that demand. Why shouldn't I? Sean tried to temporize. You've had a lot of exploration experience. You should know about such things. I don't pretend to be any authority. Thorvald refolded the map and placed it in the case. Then he pulled at the ceiling of his blouse, groping in an inner secret pocket. He uncurled his fingers to display his treasure. On his palm lay a coin-shaped medallion, bone white, but possessing an odd luster which bone would not normally show, and it was carved. Shan put out a finger, though he had a strange reluctance to touch the object. When he did, he experienced a sensation close to the tingle of a mild electric shock. And once he had made that contact, he was also impelled to pick up that disk and examine it more closely. The carved pattern was very intricate and had been done with great delicacy and skill, though the whorls, oddly shaped knobs, ribbon tracings, made no connected design he could determine. After a moment or two of study, Shan became aware that his eyes, following those twists and whirls, were fixed, that it required a distinct effort to look away from the thing. Feeling some of that same alarm as he had known when he first heard the wailing of the Throg hound, he let the disk fall back into Thorvald's hold, even more disturbed when he discovered that to relinquish his grasp required some exercise of will. What is it? Thorvald restored the coin to his hiding place. You tell me. I can say this much. There is no listing for anything even remotely akin to this in the archives. Shan's eyes widened. He actually rubbed the fingers which had held the bone coin, if it was a coin, back and forth across the torn front of his blouse. That tingle. Did he still feel it? Or was his imagination at work again? But an object not listed in the exhaustive survey archives would mean most totally new civilization, a new stellar race. It is definitely a created article, the survey officer continued, and it was found on the beach of one of those sea islands. Throg? But Shan already knew the answer to that. Throg work, this? Thorvald was openly scornful. Throgs have no conception of such art. You must have seen their metal plates. Those are the beetlehead's idea of beauty. Have those the slightest resemblance to this? Then who made it? Either Warlock has, or once had, a native race advanced enough in a well-established form of civilization to develop such a sophisticated type of art, or there have been other visitors from space here before us and the Throgs. And the latter possibility I don't believe. Why? Because this was carved of bone or an allied substance. We haven't been able to identify it in the labs, but it is basically organic material. It was found exposed to the weather, and yet it is in perfect condition. Could have been carved any time within the past 5 years. It has been handled, yes, but not roughly. And we have come across evidence of no other star-cruising races or species save ourselves and the Throgs. No, I say this was made here on Warlock not too long ago, and by intelligent beings of a very high grade of civilization. But they would have cities, protested Shan. We've been here for months, explored all over this continent. We would have seen them, or some traces of them. An old race, maybe, Thorvald mused. A very old race, perhaps in decline, reduced to a remnant in numbers with good reason to retire into hiding. No, we discovered no cities, no evidence of a native culture, past or present. But this, he touched the front of his blouse, was found on the shore of an island. We may have been looking in the wrong place for our natives. The sea? Shann glanced with new interest at the green water surging in wavelets along the edge of the fjord. Just so, the sea. But scouts have been here for more than a year, one team or another, and nobody saw anything or found any traces. All four of our base camps were set inland. Our explorations along the coast were mainly carried out by flitter, except for one party, the one which found this. And there may be excellent local reasons why any native never showed himself to us. For that matter, they may not be able to exist on land at all, any more than we could live without artificial aids in the sea. Now we must make a real attempt to find them if they do exist anywhere near here. A friendly native race could make all the difference in the world in any struggle with the Throgs. Then you did have more than the dreams to back you when you argued with Finiston, Shann cut in. Thorvald's eyes were on him again. When did you hear that, Lantee? To his great embarrassment, Shann found himself flushing. I heard you the day you left for headquarters, he admitted, and then added in his own defense. Probably half the camp did too. Thorvald's gathering frown flickered away. He gave a snort of laughter. Yes, I guess we did rather get to the bellowing point that morning. The dreams, he came back to the subject. Yes, the dreams are important. We had their warning from the start. Lori was a first-in scout who chartered Warlock, and he is a good man. I guess I can break secret now to tell you that his ship was equipped with a new experimental device which recorded, well, you might call it an emanation, a radiation so faint its source could not be traced, and it registered whenever Lori had one of those dreams. Unfortunately, the machine was very new, very much in the untested stage, and its performance when checked later in the lab was erratic enough so the powers that be questioned all its readings. They produced a half dozen answers to account for that tape, and Lori only caught the recording as long as he was on a high bay to the south. Then when two check flights came in later, carrying perfected machines and getting no recordings, it was all written off as a mistake in the first experiment. A planet such as Warlock is too big a find to throw away when there was no proof of occupancy, and the settlement boys rushed matters right along. Shann required his own vivid dream of the skull rock set in the lap of water, the sea, and another small point fell into place to furnish the beginning of a pattern. I was asleep on the raft when I dreamed about that skull mountain, he said slowly, wondering if he were making sense. Thorvald's head came up with the alert stance of Taggy on a strong game scent. Yes, on the raft. You dreamed of a skull rock, and I of a cavern with a green veil. Both of us were on water. Water which had an eventual connection with the sea. Could water be a conductor? I wonder. Once again his hand went into his blouse. He crossed a strip of gravel beach and dipped fingers into the water, letting the drops fall on the carved disc he now held in his other hand. What are you doing? Shann could see no purpose in that. Thorvald did not answer. He had pressed wet hand to dry now, palm to palm, the coin cupped tightly between them. He turned a quarter circle to face the still distant open sea. That way, he spoke with a new odd tonelessness. Shann stared into the other's face. All the eager alertness of only a moment earlier had been wiped away. Thorvald was no longer the man he had known. but in some frightening way